What's the difference between a narcissist and a sociopath?
So people get confused about these terms, and they really are just terms. And there's a continuum amongst all these things. And people, first of all, confuse narcissist and egotist. There's lots of egotistical people out there that have various kinds of maybe narcissistic traits or not. That is not narcissism. Egotism exists in all kinds of settings. Self-preoccupation, particularly these days, all sorts of settings. Now, predictably, we've all kind of got some narcissistic traits that are bleeding in, so most of that has some narcissistic quality to it. But I'm using narcissistic traits as sort of a placeholder for the cluster B personality traits generally. These are the narcissistic disorders, right? They have at their core oftentimes narcissistic injuries and sense of lack of self-development and inconsistent sense of who the person is, and moods are dysregulated. And these cluster B disorders include narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and sociopathy, sociopathic, or there's various themes under sociopathic. I'm going to use the term sociopath. And sociopaths actually can have empathy. Not necessarily, but they're capable of empathy. Problem with sociopaths is they see other people as there to serve their needs only. So if I'm being empathic for you, it's in order to manipulate you and get what I need from you. So sociopaths can be very charming, very entertaining, but when the day is done, you are just something there to serve their needs. And that's it.
What is a psychopath?
Psychopath, again, this is the terminology issue. I'm going to use the term psychopath to mean people that have a genetic disorder, and these are spectrum disorders as well, where a certain part of their brain doesn't work or isn't developed, and it's the part of the brain where they actually have and experience emotions. So psychopaths don't actually have feelings and emotions. They study other people and behave as if they did, and then use them to manipulate other people and get their needs met. There's something called a pro-social psychopath, and that's an interesting group because pro-social psychopaths tend to be very unclear about feelings, certainly unclear about their impact on your feelings, but they have an exquisite scale of what's right and what's wrong. Because there's no intuition about right and wrong, it's an explicit cognitive measurement in their mind. And they're very rigidly attached to their compass, their scale of right and wrong. And so they can at once be exquisitely even and fair, and also kind of frustrating to deal with because they don't really appreciate your feelings or care about them.
Have you ever had a patient who was a psychopath?
I've never had a psychopathic killer, okay, which is what people think about when they think about psychopaths. Psychopaths in and of themselves can be very entertaining and very much like psychopaths. There's a famous UC Irvine professor that was doing research on psychopaths, and he was using himself and his family as controls. He was doing functional MRI scans to study the regions of the brain that didn't work in psychopaths. And he had a bunch of controls on his desk one day he had to go through, and he's going through the controls, normal brains. And he goes, oh, wait a minute, one of the psychopaths, they must have slipped in one of the psychopathic brains. And so he pulled off the identifier. It was his MRI. He was a psychopath. His name is James Fallon. He has a series of YouTube videos out there. It's fascinating. And he was a kind of a pro-social psychopath. And he had a certain flavor of psychopathy where the acting out behaviors was always on family members. So he went back once he discovered all this and interviewed his family, and all his kids and his wife said, oh yeah, you're an asshole. Yeah. But nobody else knew that because he was very charming and entertaining to the outside world. And he went back in his family system and he found that psychopathy, because it's genetically linked, was showing up throughout his family system all the way back to his relative who killed their family, Lizzie Borden. Isn't that something?
How do I know if I'm a psychopath?
People around you would tell you usually, but you don't know for sure without documentation. It's hard for people not to know when feelings don't matter, because you have kind of feelings, but it may be impoverished. And other people will notice when your sense of what a feeling is an impoverished landscape, because you don't really think about their feelings very much. So with narcissists, feelings don't matter to them. They're disconnected from them. They're off in the distance. They don't connect to them well, and they treat your feelings the same way. They have them, but they don't really matter. Feelings don't. Whenever you see somebody talking about feelings don't matter, just go, narcissist. Sociopaths have lots of feelings. They just use them.
If you like this clip, it is part of a much longer conversation that is only available at dadsavesamerica.com. So head on over there and subscribe. It's our Substack where you can get that and so much more. It's a great way to also keep track of everything we're doing here at Dad Saves America.